Welcome to today's Health Coach Collaborative podcast. Today we have a very special guest from Meal Garden, Jeff Lougheed, who's going to talk or take us through the Meal Garden program. Now, Jeff, a lot of us get into this career because it's our passion, and we want to share our knowledge about nutrition with everybody in the world, with anyone who will listen. But it isn't just a passion-driven career; it's also a business, and it's important that we all find revenue generating aspects of this business, and meal planning happens to be or provide a really important opportunity for making a little bit of extra money along with whatever else we do in our practice. So can you take us through Meal Garden and explain how all of that can happen?
First, thank you so much for having me. And yes, I can take you through that. So I think the question is, how do I take my passion and kind of make money, right? And I think that, so we can look at Meal Garden here and kind of, Meal Garden is designed in a way that we've tried to build the platform to make it so that you can really leverage that kind of your expertise and your passion and turn it into a revenue generating source, right? So if we kind of just jump right into this is a high level. These are all the different ways that you can use Meal Garden to generate revenue. Okay. So all these different things, there are lots of practitioners that use it for all these different types of things. I think what we're going to do today is just kind of narrow in on some of the more common ways that folks use Meal Garden to generate revenue. And talk about that, right? So the first thing, and I think probably one of the most common ways, is just custom meal plans, right? So building custom meal plans for clients. The interesting thing is kind of, I think what people try and understand is, how do I make money from building a custom meal plan? How do I kind of show the value of that meal plan, right? Like, because I think there's a lot of there's some perceptions out there that meal planning is easy, and some perceptions out there that that consumers won't pay for a meal plan, right? So you kind of have to figure out, well, how do I actually show value in that? And one of the ways to do that is through kind of this idea of memberships, or this idea of recipe collections, right? So what you'll find is you could provide clients with a recipe collection, okay? And provide that client not only the recipe collection, but the ability to create their own meal plans, right? And after that, kind of reaching out to them and saying, hey, did you know that I also offer custom meal planning services, right? So they're in your Meal Garden. They're using your membership platform, which is a fully branded experience. It's a digital experience with the ability to kind of generate PDFs and things like that. So they're actually in there. They have recipes and an environment that really works for them, but it's up to them to connect the dots. And what you want to do is ease your way into that conversation, saying, hey, it's not that easy, but I can help, right? So it's almost like an upsell opportunity. So they have the experience and they can do it on their own. But what you can say is, hey, for a fee, I can actually create the custom meal plan for you, incorporate it into your kind of environment, your Meal Garden that you're using in mine. And that's one way that I see folks using custom meal plans to generate revenue, right? So the idea is you create a membership environment where people can experience and grow, but you actually sell the effort and the know-how of creating that custom meal plan for each member after the fact, right? So that's one way that we see folks doing that. We certainly see a lot of challenges being done within Meal Garden, right? So using that capability to say, hey, let's build a challenge, right? So 3-day, 30-day challenge, 40-day challenge, all kinds of different challenges. And, again, in Meal Garden, it's not just meal planning, although that's certainly an aspect of it, but helping people understand, how do you build a meal plan? So saying, all right, so everybody needs to, these are the recipes for the week. And once you've added the recipe to your calendar, to your schedule, I'd like to see a comment. Say, I did it, right? So there's these interactive components within Meal Garden. I noticed last night, one of the practitioners has asked their members to go in and favorite 3 recipes, right? So these kinds of ways of interactivity within Meal Garden and kind of using that platform to get people engaged and just paying for the challenge, right?
So it's like homework. You aren't just handing your clients a meal plan. You're getting them to be involved in the process of creating their own meal plan, or when they no longer need you, or when they can no longer afford to pay for you, then they have the tools to continue building their meal planning kit. Because don't you find a lot of families or a lot of people just have the same, like, I think it's like the same 11 meals that we kind of turn to all the time, but that can
Mhm.
get really boring, and
Mhm.
it's just like variations on those meals. So we love that inspiration from all the beautiful recipes that Meal Garden provides.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what I see is this, to your point, is this opportunity. You got to like thinking differently and thinking in today's world of memberships and today's online world. Like, how do you extend that relationship, right? So what we see practitioners doing is they may sell a package to a family, and that package goes for say 90 days, right? And within that 90 days, there's a components to it. There's coaching, there's accountability, and included in that package is kind of this custom meal plan, right? After that, through the 90 days, what we see practitioners doing is moving clients into a paid long-term membership. So now that package might be, a few $100s up to thousands of dollars. I hope it's thousands of dollars. I hope everybody's charging. Nobody charges enough, so broad stroke, charge more, right? But after that package is done, they shift them into this membership environment where they can continue to use this branded meal planning experience, because it's not just meal planning, right? There's grocery lists, there's grocery delivery, and then to your point, there's this more inspirational stuff, right? So maybe for Valentine's Day, for example, as a practitioner, maybe you create a specific, like a day of meals that you can share with all your people in your meal garden and say, hey, here's the Valentine's Day thing. Or, as seasons change, as a practitioner, you can say, hey, these are the fruits and vegetables that are available this season. This is where you want to start shifting your thinking. We have practitioners that are actually, depending on their area, they're aware of, they actually look into where people shop, and they'll actually go in and create meal plans based on the deals available at the prevalent grocery store, right? And saying, hey,
I do
this
that.
plan has been built to reflect the deals in our local grocery store, right? Which is spectacular. We have, we've even seen co-branding where practitioners have actually entered meals from restaurants into Meal Garden and then shared those with their clients, saying, hey, look, I have a collab going on with this restaurant, and these 3 meals are in your meal garden. You can go and eat them, and we've incorporated them into the meal garden, right? So that's kind of lots of different ways to do that kind of stuff, as well as we've seen brand collaborations. So in meal garden, you can create custom foods. So you could maybe find a brand that's say a good example is probably like the various types of milk, right? And there's maybe not quite as popular, but a few years ago that was a big buzz, was these different types of foods were coming out. And what we incorporated into the technology is the ability to actually say, this is a branded food, go and add them to different recipes, and then kind of be able to report back to the brand saying, this is how many times these recipes have been used. This is how much exposure you're getting from our collaboration, right? So incorporated those types of things. So I think these are lots of different ways to use Meal Garden. It really kind of depends on, in a lot of ways, is what do you want to do? Right? Like your programs provide a vast array of skill sets, and you can take them in a lot of different directions. Some of our practitioners, I know the one off the top of my head is Nicole. What she does is she actually does consulting. Nicole and Eleanor are two that I talk to on a regular basis. They do consulting for restaurants. So they actually help consult on for restaurant meals, and they use Meal Garden to do that analysis and create those meals, those actual recipes for the restaurants, and then they share them through a program with the restaurant, and they can kind of communicate. The restaurant can kind of say, hey, I like this recipe, but could you change this or change that? And they can kind of get this back and forth going, and they have these programs to kind of release that stuff out, right? That's another way to do it. So lots
Wow.
of different things like that. I think the two that we're seeing the most of are memberships. I think that's the most prevalent way of using Meal Garden right now, memberships, and then this idea of packages. So memberships are where you have a reoccurring fee, right? And it's an ongoing thing. And a package is where you have a one-time fee, and it's more related to a specific, maybe a specific eating behavior or a specific type. Like I think our most successful package is Healthy at Home. And that's just recipes designed to increase immunity. And, we've created these packages. You as a practitioner can grab it, put a price on it, put it on your website, and start selling it as an evergreen program, or you can create promotional codes, and you can do all kinds of things, right? So depending on what's most interesting to you, we can dive into the different more concrete examples or kind of action plans to get these things launched. But
oh my gosh, there's a lot. Holy smokes, a lot to unpack. Okay, so let's say for a natural nutrition coach who has taken our program and they're just starting out as a consultant. So they're coaching clients for nutrition, weight loss, immunity, whatever the client needs work for. But they also requested a menu plan. So where would a client or a practitioner begin? Because I love all these different aspects. And in fact, I'm going to do that with my own website after we get off this call. But for the newbie, someone who's just, starting out, where is the best place for them to begin with Meal Garden?
Okay, so this is the way I would approach that. And I guess some of the caveats here is that I would potentially, what's the best way to caveat this? Testing is paramount, right? So everything I say is it may or may not work, but if it doesn't work, that just means you have to adjust it a bit, okay? Because some people will incorporate a custom meal plan into that package price, right? That's what they'll do, and that's fine. I think the important thing is to make sure that you're pricing in meal plans somehow. Don't give away a meal plan. Do not give away a custom meal plan for free. It's not a good idea. If you want to incorporate, so with that caveat, what I see people doing is saying, okay, here's our package. I have a meal garden. I am going to set up the environment for you so that the recipes that show up in Meal Garden, the meals that are available to you, support our protocol or support our, when I say protocol, it's kind of the idea of it. Maybe the practitioner sets up the goals and says, okay, these are the daily goals in terms of calories, or in terms of maybe there's a specific nutrient that you want to, like, simple off the top of my head is, making sure you have a vitamin C goal for each day, just for that immunity, or something, like very simple idea. And they say, as a client, I don't like tuna. I don't like tuna, and my kids won't eat pickles. Okay, so the practitioner will go in and set up this environment in Meal Garden for this client where, they're going to say, hey, let's make sure that you get at least X grams of vitamin C a day, and make sure there's no recipes with pickles and there's no recipes with tuna, right? So now the client has this environment where they can start creating their own meal plans, which is really easy. They can go in, they can pick the recipes. Generally speaking, that's not that easy for people to do. They don't necessarily, some people will just pick it up and go, and that's great. Other people actually need a little bit more of a helping hand. And that's where the practitioner can step in and say, hey, for an additional fee, I can actually sit with you and we can build a custom meal plan, and I can show you how to do this. After the custom meal plan's built, right? Then it's really, to your point, you're kind of like, okay, well, let's make sure that this meal plan is rescheduled every week. And let me show you how to swap meals, right? Because to your point, people might just eat the same thing kind of regularly unless their days change, right? And why would your day change? Your day might change from vacation. Your day might change from, events that your family's doing or your children are doing. Your day might change from just because you want to change, right? So there's all kinds of things that can change, that can impact those day-to-days. But just having that schedule provides a real level of comfort for people, right?
Yeah, so, even the weekend, right? People tend to eat the same from Monday to Friday, but totally different on Saturday and Sunday because their structure is totally different.
I love it. And there's practitioners that on what they do is they add to their calendar. They're like, okay, on Thursday, I'm going to prepare some fun weekend meals. And I'm going to share these. I'm going to broadcast these out on Friday saying, hey, here's 3 meals that I put together that you can go ahead and add it to your Meal Garden. You'll see a grocery list. It'll automatically scale for your family. and boom, away you go, right? And that's how practitioners, like, it's a bit of a different thinking, right? Because when you get into using a platform, you're not only are you providing inspiration, but you're also providing that support, right? So a lot of practitioners that use Meal Garden and use memberships, they actually run kind of weekly or bi-weekly webinars where they invite their audience and they show them how to use their Meal Garden, right? They actually log in with their customers on the phone. They're like, this is how you use it, and this is how easy it is, and this is how you set it up, and this is like that's how they get people engaged, right? And to keep them engaged.
Amazing.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that's amazing. They're just, I don't think I realized how many different opportunities there were, how many different ways there were to use Meal Garden. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah, it's a very flexible tool, and you know, we incorporated payments into this concept of programs, memberships, and stuff, so that you can. This space is kind of tech heavy in the sense that if you're a practitioner, you kind of like, even if you're just and there's a lot of practitioners that do this as a passion project. They maybe be doing something else. They may have a full-time job and they're doing this as a passion project. There's a lot of tech that you need to get going. And the way we looked at it is like, well, why, right? How can we make this so that you can generate revenue, you can really focus on your nutritional knowledge, and build those kind of memberships. Like memberships, I think are, you know, there's a lot of talk about courses and programs. Courses are hard. That's hard to do. I'm sure you teach in your program how to build courses, right? But it is a hard, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And when you compare a course to running a membership, I think memberships are more palatable. It's easier to get off the ground, and it's actually easier to run, right? And memberships are, I think they're actually more attractive to a broader base of consumers. Like, again, courses are very specific and very important.
You mean like offering courses to your clients, like take this 3-day course and learn how to meal plan, for example, versus having a membership that you can log into or access anytime.
Exactly. A membership, in my opinion, every single practitioner should have a membership site. They should have a membership component. And from that membership, you're going to be able to find people that want to take courses. You're going to be able to, you're also going to really start getting to talk to people, right? And I think as a business person, the most important thing is to talk to your clients. And that's where most of your good ideas are going to come from, right? Like asking your clients, how can I help you? What can you do? Or what's your goal? Like these kinds of things. The more conversations you have, the more you're going to be able to tie back all these conversations to your offerings and say, hey, you know, I've talked to 100 people, and through all these conversations, it really made sense for me to put together this kind of 4-week program or course where we're going to go through how to shop, right? How to distinguish healthy in a grocery store. Like, how do you do that? Like, it sounds easy. It's not designed to be easy. So how do you do that? Or to your point, like one of the things I know Michelle in Las Vegas is running I think it's called the fall colors of fall. And she's using the different colors of fall to explain how to buy in-season vegetables and why that's important. Like, why is it important to buy in-season vegetables? What does that actually mean? And you know, people, I personally find it fascinating. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a technologist, but I find it fascinating that an apple picked at different times of years can actually have different nutritional makeups and stuff. I think actually a lot of people find that interesting, and it's I certainly like bringing it up when I'm with my friends and being like, did you know? Right? So those types of things. But how is this all landing with you? Is there like, I wanted to show you, I have a couple examples here. I know, but these are a couple examples of kind of some of the things that practitioners are doing with Meal Garden. This is an example of like kind of a membership that's kind of launched. This is Marta. She runs a thermographic center. So she's a naturopathic doctor, I believe. And she runs this kind of group where, again, it's a membership. It has recipe. She has defined the content that's available to her members, right? That's up to you. Meal Garden does not define it. We have, I think there's 102,000 recipes in Meal Garden. There's around 5,000 of those have been reviewed and approved for for kind of like this idea of reviewed. There's another 10,000 public recipes, lots and lots of recipes, but it's up to you as the practitioner to define that environment for your clients, right? So for what Martha does is she's kind of curated all this information and she gets people in there. And again, it's this idea of, it's not just meal planning, it's the comfort that meal planning provides, but it's also having that grocery list, right? And being able to either like say, hey, I want to just get Instacart to deliver this. I just want to use Instacart. Right? Okay, go ahead and do that. Or you know what? I'm gonna actually just shop day to day, which not everybody has the opportunity to do that, but sometimes it's nice. And you go into the store and you say, it's Monday and I'm here on Monday. What do I need for my meal on Monday? Right? Pick it up, away you go. Or you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be eating with Lisa tonight. So I'm actually going to go ahead and say, you know, Lisa's going to pick up these 3 ingredients. I'm going to get these ingredients. Away we go. So there's a lot of flexibility in those ways, but really kind of building communities around healthy eating. And this is one of the examples. Let's see if we can get this to go here. Here we go. This is another example. So this is a 28-day immune boosting guide. This is built again in Meal Garden. It's really, really nice landing page. So she's built a really good funnel. And this just kind of just goes. It's an evergreen program that she runs off her website. I believe this person actually did some advertising on Instagram to get it going. And, you know, she generates a few hundred or to a few $1,000s a month, just kind of selling this. And it's very hands off. Like what she does, this is all hands off. You can use it if you want to engage with her, kind of like an upsell idea, right? Like here's a hands-off tool. You can figure this out. But if you're looking for a more custom or personalized solution, hey, you can go ahead and hit this link and sign up and we can work through it. So it's a really great tool to get those, to build that audience, right? Or build that base. Again, I know you're running a successful business, so you got to build that audience and build that base and get that community going. And then from that community, people will start to raise their hands. Some folks are happy with just a self-service opportunity. Other folks will get that and say, you know what, I want to go the next level. So what does that look like? And then they'll actually raise their hand. And those are higher quality, what I would consider higher quality leads, right? There's probably a better probability that those folks are going to kind of convert. Again, I don't want to get too much into the sales lingo, but that's kind of how I look at some of these things. Is if you get people engaged in a free tool or a low cost tool, some of those people are going to become more interested in a more personalized experience, right?
So this was created in Meal Garden by the practitioner who posted it on their website, and then people just go in and purchase this.
Yeah, these if you look at this is a landing page built in Meal Garden, and then these little buttons will launch you into the payment. And again, this like we've connected with Stripe, so there's a payment engine through Meal Garden, right? Which is, you know, one of the things like like payment. You hit all these different technologies, right? And it gets really headachy if you're not a technologist, right? So that's what we do. And I think you see lots of people that have PDFs. They sell PDF meal plans. You can do that. I have my own. I think PDFs are very, very, very important. I also think I would prefer to have a member than have an email. Personally, I would prefer to have someone using and interacting with me than just having somebody's email address. I think it's a more powerful tool to kind of figure out who's going to engage. So, you know, there's the classic selling a recipe collection as a lead magnet, right? So you create a recipe collection, you turn it into a PDF. We do that. They're beautiful. We have really neat integration with Canva and some other things we've been working on. It's kind of neat. But once somebody downloads that PDF, what do they do with that? Right? You have an email address now, which is great, very important. But how do you know who's interacting with that content? Like how many PDFs do we all have in a folder somewhere on your laptop that you just never got to? So if you flip that around and you invite people to kind of access your recipe collection and you give them a kind of tool that they can schedule with, and if they want to download as a PDF, go ahead. Go ahead and do that. You'll find the interactiveness, though, is what people are really looking for, and they start to get into, they like that, right? And with Meal Garden, I think the way to look at it is it's your Meal Garden, so it's very fully branded. So you add your own, like right down to our app, like the app that your clients log into uses your logo and your icons. Everything's branded as much as possible. All the things are branded, and we don't send messages to folks. And it's up to you. The only way a consumer can get access to Meal Garden is if it's provided via a practitioner. So consumers can't use Meal Garden unless they have been provided access through a practitioner. And it's up to the practitioner to determine, is this a free service? Is this going to be a paid service? That kind of things. We obviously encourage practitioners, like we beg, we're like, don't do things for free, like try and put a fee on it. And I've seen different fees. I've seen fees in Meal Garden I've seen $8 all the way up to $1,800. Wow. So yeah, it's very, like, every business is a little different. Every geography is a little different. Every service is a little different, but adding a fee in there. And I think I did some research about this earlier this summer, and generally speaking, depending on what you're offering, between kind of $30 and kind of $60 a month, depending on the service you're offering, is kind of the fair recurring fee for that. And that was based on like just analyzing a whole bunch of different tools and different approaches people are using, right?
So there's lots of opportunities for passive income, obviously, which is amazing. But what about the practitioner who has a client with very specialized needs, like, they're allergic to very common items like dairy products and gluten and broccoli. So they need to customize a menu for one person. How does Meal Garden save time for that person?
Save time. So there's two things there. So save time for the practitioner is, and again, this all depends on what the practitioner wants to do. So as a practitioner, you could go into Meal Garden, you could say, okay, I need to build a meal plan with no dairy and no broccoli, and create that meal plan, share it with the client via a program with a price on it, and just say, here you go, like, start using it, right? Or they could give it away free if they wanted. So the first part is actually providing that framework. Moving forward, the client could continue to use Meal Garden. The practitioner can set up the environment and say, okay, give this client access to all the recipes in Meal Garden, but only recipes without broccoli and without no dairy. And the client could continue to kind of use the skills that the practitioners provided them in this kind of branded environment, where this, what I would call a trusted environment, where they can go in and find different recipes. It all depends on how interested you are. Like I find, and correct me or let me know what you think about this, but as people become more aware and kind of get on that health journey, they become more interested and excited about exploring meals, right? At first, people are like, oh, I don't want to, I don't know how to cook. I don't understand ingredients. I don't want to do this. But as people become more comfortable with it through the support of their practitioners, then they actually are interested, and they are looking around, and they do want to find different things and explore. Like, the experience of cooking changes and transforms, right, to being a more comfortable, sometimes maybe even a therapeutic experience, right, or a family experience, right? So as that happens, as a practitioner, as you're providing that confidence and that knowledge, they'll continue to go to your Meal Garden because that's a comfortable place. And they know, hey, I know that the recipes in Lisa's Meal Garden are going to be things that are healthy for me because Lisa's set it up. And if I have any questions, I can just click on chat and Lisa will get back to me within X amount of time. And that's worth, there's value in that for a lot of people.
100%. And I find that exactly what you just said to be absolutely true. They rely on you so much at the beginning, and a lot of them just have no idea where to start. So they're eating things that are absolutely wrong for them. That is just making their condition worse and worse. But over time, you're right. They do want to take the reins and start exploring some other options and adding a little bit of interest to their menus. And they do look for services where they could continue to receive inspiration and recipes and just have that. Meal planning takes a lot of time for an individual. I mean, obviously that's why you created this, right? And for a practitioner, like as a person, you work full time, you get home at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is have to come up with dinner that's going to make everybody happy when everyone feels like eating something different at the same same time, especially when you have all kinds of health issues that really interfere with your ability to just, walk into a store and buy whatever the heck you want. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this program is incredible for just taking the headache, the time, all that extra effort that you would have made. It just takes it away from us. It's just the convenience aspect for not only the individual, but especially for the consultant who is assigned with like coming together, putting a plan together for these people.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I was talking to Sarah about 2 weeks ago, a practitioner named Sarah, and she had a client that had one of her children had allergies. So she actually had to create two meals for each day, one of them to support this allergy situation. And you can do that in Meal Garden. You can actually add to your calendar 2 meals. You can say, you know what, the three of us are going to eat this, and little Jimmy is going to eat this. The product will scale it properly. You can go and shop for it. So it just makes it a lot. It takes those situations, which are very not as unique as you would think, but it just releases you from the anxiety of like, did I get all the groceries? Do I need to think about two different things? You're like, well, actually, we can build this so that it just works for you and it's more consistent, and you don't have to sweat it, right? And the practitioner can do neat things like help the client say, hey, do you want us to set up some SMS reminders, right? Or an email reminder saying, hey, do you want to go in and do your shopping or get your shopping list going? Like these kinds of things. This is, we're just looking at Dr. Daryl here. So what Dr. Daryl did is he actually built a free membership, right? With a collection, kind of like a taste, and then you can upgrade to a broader set of experiences, right? So he's got this kind of two-step thing where he's got a free membership, he's got a set of recipes and kind of meal plans in that free environment. When you upgrade, you have more access. So the paid environment has more access. Another really neat example of, all these different sales approaches to selling and kind of ways to get people engaged. There's so many. It's exciting to see what people are doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. It's incredible how intuitive Meal Garden is also. Because it just like, honestly, if I had this service 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have saved thousands and thousands of hours.
Yeah.
And frustration.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's well, I appreciate that. Is we're doing our best here, so I appreciate that. And there's a long way for Meal Garden to go, but we're plugging along, and again, just spending a lot of time talking to practitioners and trying to understand, what are your major obstacles? What are the obstacles in your way of incorporating nutrition into your practice, right? I think there's a lot of practitioners actually that I talk to is like, I don't understand recipes. I don't understand meals. I understand nutrition. I am not great in the kitchen, and I myself am kind of uncomfortable. So how do I use Meal Garden in that environment? We're like, oh, just go in and pick easy to make recipes, and like get comfortable with it. It's I certainly know I'm better in the kitchen than before I was kind of working on Meal Garden. And again, it sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes it's this fear of the unknown. Once you get in there and you start to understand, you're like, well, it's called for a tablespoon, and I ended up with it. You're like, it's okay. It's all right. We're not a Michelin restaurant here. Like, you can be flexible and move. And I think for a nutritionist, I think you all have this superpower where you can actually look at a recipe and pick out things in a recipe that I'm going to change this, I'm going to swap this out, and that's going to have a huge impact on it. That is something that you can kind of help people. If you engage with a practitioner, you can start to learn this skill yourself, and then you have that superpower. So when you're sitting with your extended family, you're like, maybe we should switch this ingredient for that. This is the impact that's going to have. And it's a real eye opener for people. Like I would love to see I believe nutritionists have a tough time at parties, because you basically, once somebody finds out That's all the questions are about that, right? Hey, can I just ask you one thing about hey, can I just ask
Yeah.
you just one thing about, I read this. We probably hear a lot of that too. I Googled this. You're like,
Oh,
oh
yes. Or my neighbor told me. Yes.
yeah,
And also at parties, we just walk along the party table, the food table, and just pretend that everything is healthy and have to just ignore. But you're absolutely right. And that is something we teach in our own meal planning course, is how to substitute ingredients for
yeah,
different clients, right? Based on
yeah.
their specific needs or allergies or sensitivities, et cetera. Okay, so what else have you got for us in your presentation?
What else have I got for you in the presentation? Well, I think these are things we've looked at. I think the one thing that we didn't talk about, which I think is a great opportunity, which I'd love to share with you, is this idea of as a student, how do I get going, right?
Yeah.
And in Meal Garden, it's very easy to collaborate amongst practitioners. You can just take a link, share it with a practitioner, they can share it. And one of the things that we're working on, and one of the things I think is exciting, is as a student, helping successful practitioners with their content management, right? So going to a practitioner who's successful and saying, hey, can I help you? I use Meal Garden, you use Meal Garden. Can I help you build content, right? Can I help you create this stuff? I think that's another great opportunity that I haven't seen it grow as much as I'd like, but I'm certainly, this is what I'm thinking about, and what I'm encouraging students to do is reach out to successful practitioners and offer your services to help them with the content, because that's always the tricky part. What we've found, and you'll see this in very shortly, we have a big release, a new feature we're releasing that's really very hard to do, but it's really, really exciting. And it's based on talking to practitioners. What we've found is the biggest area for practitioners is the preparation of that environment. Finding the recipes, modifying the recipes, that's where the most time is spent. And really where the rubber hits the road. Actually adding things to the schedule, right? So you have, from a meal planning perspective, you have this understanding the protocol or understanding what the client needs. You have the preparing of the recipes, finding the foods and recipes, and then you have the adding to the schedule. This part in the middle, that preparation part, is where it becomes kind of time consuming, and it's tricky, right? Like you might have what's a great example? This is one I've heard a lot of, is swapping kale for broccoli. Kale is not as readily available or as welcomed in all kitchens as it maybe people expect. I don't know. I thought that was a surprise to me, but some people just don't like kale. So being able to go in and saying, okay, I need 10 recipes, but hey, if there's kale or there's bok choy, I need you to swap that out for broccoli or for romaine, something along those lines, right? So that effort of creating that content can really take a lot of time. And I think it's a great way for students or up and coming practitioners to offer to help out a successful practitioner. And it's kind of like what I would say is like co-op for the thousands kind of thing, right? Like I think that's neat. And we're certainly building, continue to expand our collaboration capabilities to make it easier for practitioners connect, right? Like, so, and Meal Garden is HIPAA compliant. So we need to ensure that when collaboration exists, that as a practitioner, you can kind of have that client information is very secure, right?
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does one get started then on Meal Garden? Is there support? I know you've got a lot of training videos on YouTube. So when, say, a student or a graduate wants to get started, how do they need to reach out to you or to somebody at Meal Garden if they need some extra support? Where would you start?
Yeah, so I would you can just sign up for Meal Garden. So we have a trial and you sign up. When you sign up, you'll get an email from me. It's like, hey, do you want to schedule an onboarding session? There's a little icon down in the bottom of Meal Garden that says, I think it actually says help. You can click there and you'll see me or somebody on my team. So we're certainly here to help. Lots of YouTube videos. I think lots of ways to get started. I think there's a lot of folks in the community that actually know Meal Garden and can use it. It's a fairly intuitive tool, I believe. Like that's how it's built. Lots of onboarding and all kinds of things. I think really encourage people when they sign up is there's walkthroughs for every aspect of Meal Garden when you first sign up. And I think intuitively people want to turn that off and just get into it. I believe that it's good just to kind of watch that, to kind of get yourself oriented with the experience. There's a lot in Meal Garden. Like there's, I think, in addition to the recipes, there's over 300 templates. So meal plan templates, recipe collection templates. There's over 200 resources, right? So I think resources, reading material, handouts, that type of stuff, like all this content that we've created is all there. And then there's public content as well. So it's a fairly comprehensive platform. So I think it's important to kind of get comfortable with it, but like you just kind of start. I guess that's what I would do. If I was doing it, I would just start building, using the technology, right? And kind of getting comfortable with it, right? And I think a great way to do it is if you're taking a course, if you're getting educated, start using the program, because then you have practical, someone like yourself, Lisa, says, hey, here's a case study on build a meal plan. Like, oh, okay, now I have some inspiration. I have something to go after, right? And how do I do that? I think that's the best way to do it. Or if you have a client who wants a meal plan and you're like, oh, I'm going to use Meal Garden, and set it up, get it going. That's what I would say. But we're here to support practitioners, and I do my best to get in contact with every single person that signs up. That is becoming harder and harder, which is why we're bringing on more people to help. But I certainly, my favorite thing to do is talk to folks like yourself and other people that are using it, and understanding that thing, like, what are your barriers, right? What are your barriers? What can we do to kind of make this easier for you to build a successful business? And, success looks different for everybody, but what is success to you? That's one of the first questions when you sign into Meal Garden. We say, like, what's your goal? And we use that information to try and help you achieve those goals.
Incredible. That's amazing, Jeff. So Health Coach Collaborative students have access to free trial with Meal Garden for at least part of their program, and a discount afterwards for ongoing membership. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks for all this information. We're so excited to hear about the new updates when they're finally launched, and look forward to even a closer collaboration with Meal Garden.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, and thanks for what you do. It's great.
Thanks. We love it too.